My daughter-in-law and son went on a cruise without me, and although they told me it was a sudden plan, and the tickets were non-refundable, I still felt a quiet ache inside, because I had always imagined that when they finally took a vacation together as a family they would take me along too so I could see their happiness and spend some peaceful days near the sea. But I didn't say anything. I simply smiled and told them to enjoy their time because that is what mothers do. They hide their wishes in their hearts and bless their children instead of burdening them with expectations. And after they left, the house felt unusually empty, their rooms quiet, their laughter missing, even the sound of my daughter-in-law making tea in the morning echoed in my mind. And the silence reminded me that the world changes faster than we realize, and one day the people who once needed us for everything start walking ahead without looking back, and I told myself it was fine, it was their time and I should not feel this way, but I still sat near the window every evening watching the road, and wondering when they would call, and how they were doing on their cruise, while I kept my little secret locked inside my heart, hoping they never found out because I didn't want them to worry. The secret was simple yet heavy, a secret that I had been carrying alone for months. I had been feeling unwell, my strength slowly fading, my energy dropping, and the doctor had told me gently that I needed treatment soon before things got worse. But I knew treatment meant money, and money meant pressure. And I didn't want to become a burden on my son and his wife, who were already trying to build their life, pay bills, and save for their future. So I hid my reports in an old drawer folded neatly between old clothes, and told myself that I would manage somehow and maybe things would get better on their own, though deep inside I knew they wouldn't. And that scared me. But I pretended to be fine and continued doing my chores one by one, moving slowly through each day, pretending the dizziness was from the heat or the tiredness was from age, and not the truth I had been avoiding. One evening 3 days after they left the house, my phone rang just as the sky was turning orange outside. And it was my son calling from the cruise, his voice full of excitement, as he told me about the ocean, the loud music, the amazing food, and how beautiful everything looked. And I listened with a smile, even though inside I wished I could have seen it too, and I told him to enjoy every moment. But suddenly, while talking, I felt a sharp wave of pain in my chest, a hot flash that made my breath heavy and my hand shake, and I tried to speak normally so he wouldn't notice, but a small sound escaped my mouth, and he suddenly became quiet, asking me repeatedly if I was all right. And I told him I was just tired, but the worry in his voice grew, and he kept asking if something was wrong. And in that moment, for the first time, fear slipped into my voice because the pain was getting worse and my breathing slower, and my son knew something was wrong. He cut the call, and within minutes he kept calling again and again, but I wasn't able to answer because I had collapsed on the floor, and everything felt distant, blurry, and faint. And when I finally gained a little strength, I reached the sofa, and somehow messaged him that I was fine, but I think he already understood that something was terribly wrong, because later that night, while I was lying in bed struggling to sleep, there was a loud knock on the door, repeated, urgent and desperate. And when I opened it, my son and daughter-in-law stood there, their hair messy, their clothes still smelling of the sea, their faces pale with fear. And I couldn't believe they had returned so fast. They rushed inside, asking what happened, why I looked so weak, why I didn't tell them anything, and I kept saying I was fine, but my son didn't listen. He searched the whole room, and then opened the old drawer, and found the reports I had hidden. And the moment his eyes ran over the words, his whole face changed, his knees almost giving way as he whispered, "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you trust me? Why did you think you were a burden?" And my heart broke, because these were the very questions I was afraid of. My daughter-in-law came forward, tears in her eyes, holding my hands, telling me that I was their responsibility, their blessing, their home, and that no cruise, no vacation, no luxury mattered when it came to my health. And she hugged me tightly, as if trying to hold all my pain and fear inside her own arms. And my son kept saying he would never forgive himself if anything happened to me, and that from now on nothing would be hidden between us ever again. And they both stayed the whole night, sitting beside me, taking care of me, making me eat something warm, and watching over me as if I were a child again. And in that moment I realized that the love of children sometimes takes time to show, sometimes gets buried under their busy lives and their private world. But when the moment of truth arrives, their hearts still belong to their parents more than anything else. The next morning they took me to the hospital for tests, and my son held my hand the entire time, promising that he would be with me through every treatment, every appointment, every difficult moment. And my daughter-in-law stayed close, making sure I was comfortable, feeding me soup, brushing my hair, telling me stories about the cruise just to make me smile. And as days passed, my health slowly improved, and the fear I had been hiding for months began to fade, replaced by the warmth of being cared for. truly cared for not out of duty, but love. And one evening while sitting together on the balcony, my son gently placed his hand on mine and said that once I became fully healthy, they would take me on a cruise with them, the three of us together, watching the ocean, laughing, eating, and making memories. And this time he said it with such honesty that I believed it, not because I needed the trip, but because I knew I would never again be left behind or forgotten, and that love would always bring them back to me no matter how far they went.